You'll discover an ethical method that reduces friction and increases agreements using just one strategic question and one language adjustment based on nonviolent communication and silent authority. This isn't just another video about manipulation. It's about creating lasting influence while respecting the other person's autonomy. In the next 6 minutes, you'll learn exactly how to apply 3 practical tools that transform resistance into collaboration, without raising your voice, without playing mind games, and without creating resentment. By the end, you'll have phrases ready to use today. But before we dive into the method, I need to clarify something fundamental that will make all the difference in its application. There's a clear line between ethical influence and coercive control, and this distinction is crucial for both your personal integrity and sustainable results. When we talk about making someone obey without realizing it, we're describing exactly what psychology experts define as coercive control, a form of psychological abuse that takes away autonomy, instills fear, and creates emotional dependence. Coercive control operates through systematic patterns: social isolation, constant monitoring, repeated humiliation, emotional blackmail, and the creation of an environment where a person gradually loses the ability to make independent decisions. In several countries, including the United Kingdom, Australia, and parts of the United States, these practices are criminalized because they undermine mental health and individual freedom. Why does this matter to you? Because manipulative techniques create 3 practical problems. First, they create growing resistance. People develop antibodies against those manipulating them. Second, they build fear-based relationships, which are unstable and destructive. And third, they erode your own integrity, making you rely on mind games rather than genuine communication skills. The approach we'll explore today does the opposite. Instead of taking away autonomy, it strengthens common ground. Instead of creating fear, it builds trust. Instead of hiding intentions, it makes them transparent. And here's the interesting paradox. When you genuinely respect the other person's ability to say no, they're more likely to say yes, because they don't feel pressured or manipulated. This shift in perspective completely transforms your interpersonal energy. You stop trying to win conversations and start co-creating solutions. You stop forcing agreement and start inspiring collaboration. It's a difference people feel immediately, even if they can't put a name to what's changed. Now, what does Machiavelli have to do with this? The answer will surprise you, because what he actually wrote is quite different from what the internet teaches. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513 as a political survival manual for rulers facing wars, betrayals, and constant instability. The famous passage about being feared or loved appears in chapter 17, but context is crucial to understanding its correct application. Machiavelli didn't say it's always better to be feared. He said that if you have to choose between being merely loved or merely feared, it's safer to be feared, but only because love can fade with shifts in interest, while fear of consequences remains more stable. However, he immediately adds a crucial warning. You must avoid hatred at all costs. A hated prince will eventually be overthrown. This nuance is lost in modern interpretations. Machiavelli was talking about ruling empires at war, not personal relationships. In an interpersonal context, being feared doesn't mean intimidating. It means people respect your boundaries because they know you maintain them consistently and fairly. Translating this into modern relationships, you can be both liked and respected simultaneously. In fact, this is the ideal combination. People love you for your empathy, generosity, and support. They respect you for your consistency, clarity, and ability to maintain healthy boundaries. When you combine these 2 qualities, you create a natural authority that doesn't require coercion. The common mistake is to try to be just nice, always agreeing, always giving in, always avoiding any discomfort. This generates the opposite of respect. People begin to see you as someone without an opinion of their own, or worse, as someone who can't be taken seriously in important situations. The modern, ethical version of the Machiavellian principle would be, it is better to be respected and liked than just liked, because respect creates sustainable relationships, while unlimited sympathy creates destructive dynamics. Here's a practical example. Imagine a friend is frequently an hour late to your meetings. The just sweet response would be to always forgive and never mention the inconvenience. The respectful and sweet response would be to gently say, Value our time together. Can I count on you to arrive on time? Or would you prefer we adjust our schedules? You remain affectionate, but set a clear boundary. This approach works because it recognizes a fundamental psychological truth. People respect those who respect themselves. When you demonstrate that you value your own time, energy, and needs, others naturally begin to value them too. Now that you understand the philosophy behind the approach, let's move on to the first practical tool, a communication method that reduces defensiveness and increases collaboration in any conversation. Nonviolent communication, developed by Marshall Rosenberg, offers a four-step framework that transforms conflict into connection. It's not just a conversation technique, it's a way to mentally reorganize how you process difficult situations, which automatically changes your body language, tone of voice, and word choice. Step 1. Observation without judgment. Instead of starting with accusations or interpretations, you simply describe what happened, as if you were a camera filming. For example, instead of saying, "You always interrupt me and don't respect my opinion," you might say, "I've noticed that in the last 3 meetings I've been interrupted before I could finish my sentence." The difference is that the second version doesn't trigger the other person's defense system. Step 2. Genuine feeling. You name your emotional experience without blaming the other person for it. When this happens, "I get frustrated," instead of, "You make me frustrated." This subtle shift removes the blame and makes the feeling shared information, not a weapon. Step 3. Universal need. Behind every feeling lies a basic human need: to be heard, to feel safe, to feel valued, to have autonomy, to connect with others. When you identify and name the need, you create a connection. I need to feel that my ideas are considered to contribute effectively to the project. Step 4. Specific request and open to no. Here's the crucial difference between NVC and manipulation. You make a concrete request, but genuinely accept no as a valid answer. "Could you please wait for me to finish my sentence before presenting your perspective?" If that doesn't work for you, what other way could we use to ensure both of us are heard? Complete practical example. Situation. Your partner is late for dinner for the 3rd time this week.
NVC version. I've noticed that for the last 3 dinners you've arrived about 30 minutes later than the agreed upon time. Observation. I feel anxious because I interpret it as our time together not being a priority. Feeling. I need to feel that our time together is valued to feel connected in the relationship. Need.
Can we find a realistic time that works for your schedule, or would you prefer me to prepare dinner later? Open request. Common version, which creates defensiveness. You're always late. You don't respect our time and you make me nervous waiting. You need to stop doing that. The difference in outcome is dramatic. The first version invites problem solving. The second invites defensive discussion. What makes NVC powerful isn't just the words, it's the intention behind them. When you genuinely want to understand and resolve rather than be right or punish, your energy shifts. People sense this difference and respond with less resistance. Exercise for today. Identify a recurring situation that creates friction. Practice reframing it using the 4 steps. What exactly happened? How do you feel? What need isn't being met? What specific request could resolve this? The next tool combines scientific principles of persuasion with complete transparency, so you influence ethically and sustainably. Robert Cialdini identified 7 universal principles that influence human decisions. The difference between using these principles ethically or manipulatively lies in transparency and consent. I'll show you how to apply 3 of the most powerful, while fully respecting the other person's autonomy. Genuine reciprocity. People naturally want to return favors, but ethical reciprocity works differently than manipulative reciprocity. In the manipulative version, you offer something small expecting to receive something disproportionate in return, or you do unsolicited favors to create an obligation. In the ethical version, you offer genuine value, make it clear you don't expect anything in return, and only make requests when there's genuine mutual benefit. Practical example. Instead of saying, "Since I always help you with reports, could you cover my shift?" Try, "I enjoy helping with reports because I learn from the process. Regarding the shift, I need some coverage on Saturday. Would you be interested? I can reciprocate by covering one of your shifts at another time that works better for you." The difference lies in the transparency of the exchange and the openness to refusal without negative consequences. Commitment and transparent consistency. People tend to honor commitments they've made voluntarily, especially when those commitments align with their identity. Ethical enforcement involves helping someone discover what they genuinely want, not pushing them toward what you want them to want. Example: if you're trying to organize a team project instead of manipulating through forced commitments, try: what aspect of this project most interests you? How would you like to contribute in a way that utilizes your strengths? When people freely choose how to participate, they internally commit to its success. Authentic affinity and unity. Real connection is based on genuine common ground, shared values, similar experiences, aligned goals. The manipulative version manufactures affinity through lies or exaggerations. The ethical version finds real points of connection and highlights them honestly. For example, instead of pretending to share interests you don't, look for values or goals you truly share. I see that you also value quality in work, even when it means taking a little longer. How can we structure this project to maintain that standard? The formula for transparent influence. Identify the real mutual benefit, not just what you want. Be explicit about your intentions. I'm suggesting this because I believe it will benefit both of us. Offer clear exits. If it doesn't make sense to you, no problem. Keep your promises and don't retaliate if the person says no. Complete example. I have a proposal that might interest you. I noticed we both want to improve our presentation next quarter. Unity. How about we create a feedback group where we review each other's presentations? Transparent reciprocity. If you're up for it, we can set up bi-weekly 30-minute meetings. Specific commitment. If it doesn't work out or if you want to stop at any time, no problem. Explicit consent. This approach works because it respects the other person's intelligence. You're not trying to hack their brain. You're offering a clear proposal that they can freely evaluate. Paradoxically, this makes them more likely to accept because they don't feel manipulated or pressured. The third tool is about communicating confidence and setting boundaries without aggression, what Machiavelli would call natural authority. Quiet authority is the ability to inspire respect through consistency, clarity, and authenticity, rather than volume, intimidation, or power plays. It's what allows some people to be naturally heard even when speaking softly, while others are ignored even when shouting. The foundation: internal congruence. Real authority begins with internal alignment between what you think, feel, say, and do. When there's incongruence, you say yes while meaning no, or you set boundaries you can't maintain. People unconsciously sense this dissonance and stop taking you seriously. The first task is to identify where you're being inconsistent. Do you accept invitations you don't want to accept? Do you promise things you can't deliver? Do you avoid expressing disagreement when you disagree? Every incongruence weakens your natural authority. Technique 1. Economy of words. People with natural authority don't over-explain themselves. This doesn't mean being rude or mysterious. It means being precise. Instead of saying, "Sorry, I know this may seem boring, but could you please not use your phone during our conversation? I'm just a bit distracted." Try, "I'd prefer if we put our phones away during our conversation. That way I can give you my full attention." The difference lies in certainty. The first version conveys insecurity and asks for permission. The second communicates a clear preference and assumes the other person is capable of respecting it. Technique 2. Strategic pauses. In tense conversations, the first speaker often loses power. This doesn't mean creating manipulative silences, but rather giving yourself time to process before reacting. When someone confronts you or asks a difficult question, take 3 deep breaths before responding. This pause serves 2 purposes. It allows you to respond rather than react, and it communicates that you don't feel pressured to respond immediately. Example: if someone says, "Why didn't you do it the way I asked?" Instead of immediately justifying yourself, pause and respond, "Let me think about how best to explain my approach." This pause completely changes the dynamic of the conversation. Technique 3. Limits as offers, not ultimatums. How you set boundaries determines whether they're respected or tested. Effective boundaries sound like helpful information, not threats. Instead of, "If you're late again, I'm leaving," try, "I can wait until 15 minutes after the agreed upon time. After that, I'll assume there was an unforeseen event and reschedule." The difference is subtle but powerful. The first version sounds like punishment. The second sounds like practical planning. Technique 4. Validation without agreement. You can acknowledge someone's perspective without abandoning your own. This reduces defensiveness and maintains your position. I understand that you'd prefer to resolve this today. I need more time to make a decision that's good for both of us. How about we talk tomorrow morning? The test of silent authority. Do this mental exercise. If you were a movie character, would people take you seriously? Would you communicate confidence through your posture, tone of voice, and word choice? Or would you constantly justify yourself, seek approval, or avoid unnecessary conflict? Quiet authority isn't about dominating others. It's about not betraying yourself. It's maintaining your integrity, even when it's uncomfortable. It's saying no without guilt, yes without resentment, and perhaps without rushing. Practice for this week. Identify a situation where you tend to over-explain. Next time, offer only the necessary information and observe how the dynamic changes. Now you have the 3 tools. Let's put them into action with a specific task that will solidify your learning. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. To turn these tools into real skills, you need to practice them in low-stakes situations before using them in important conversations. Here's a progressive implementation plan. Task for today. The NVC request. Identify a real-life situation in your life where you need to make a request or set a limit, but have been avoiding it for fear of conflict or discomfort. Use the NVC framework to formulate your request. Observation. What exactly happened or is happening? Feeling. How does this affect you emotionally? Need. What basic human need is not being met? Request. What specific action could resolve this? Application example. Situation. Your coworker frequently interrupts you in meetings. NVC formulation. I've noticed that in the last 2 meetings I've been interrupted a few times before I could complete my point. Observation. I get frustrated because I feel like my ideas aren't being fully considered. Feeling. I need to feel like my contribution is valued to fully engage in the project. Need. Could you give me a signal when you want to comment so I can finish my point and pass the word? Specific request. Task for this week. Transparent influence. Choose a situation where you want to influence someone, not manipulate. Influence through mutual benefit. Apply Cialdini's principles with complete. Identify the real benefit for both of you, not just what you want. Be explicit about your intentions. I'm proposing this because. Offer clear exits. If it doesn't make sense, no problem. Keep your promises regardless of the answer. Assignment for next month. Quiet authority practice. One of the quiet authority techniques daily. Monday. Economy of words. Answer accurately, without excessive explanations. Tuesday. Strategic pauses. Take 3 breaths before responding in tense conversations. Wednesday. Limits as offers. Set a necessary limit using planning language. Thursday. Validation without agreement. Acknowledge. Perspectives without abandoning your own. Friday. Congruence. Align your actions with your values in a specific situation. How to measure progress. Emotional level. Do you feel calmer and more confident in difficult conversations? Relational level. Are people responding with less resistance to your requests? Practical level. Are you able to resolve conflicts more quickly and with less stress? Signs that it's working. You stop over-justifying yourself. People start to respect your boundaries. Naturally, conflicts become productive conversations. You feel less drained after difficult interactions. Others start asking for your opinion in complicated situations. What to do if it doesn't work? If you try these techniques and don't see results, ask yourself, am I applying with genuine intention of mutual benefit or trying to get what I want? Am I being internally congruent or just changing the words? Am I practicing consistently or just in extreme situations? Remember, these aren't manipulation techniques that work immediately. They're communication skills that develop with practice and yield sustainable results because they respect the dignity of everyone involved. Write somewhere visible. This week, I will practice communication that respects my integrity and the autonomy of others. This visual reminder will help you stay focused on implementation. If these tools made sense to you, there's a lot more where that came from. Let me show you the next step. If you've made it this far, it's because you understand that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, not mind games. This is rare these days, and you're on the right track. If this content was helpful, share with someone who also values respectful communication. Subscribe to the channel for more content on psychology applied to everyday life. Leave a comment telling us which tool you'll try first. Genuine respect isn't earned through fear or manipulation. It's built through authenticity, consistency, and the ability to create value for others. When you master these skills, you don't need to force anything. People naturally want to collaborate with you. We'll see you in the next video, where we'll dive even deeper into how to apply these principles in specific situations. Until then, practice with curiosity and kindness toward yourself and others.